Discuss how texts have an impact on shaping a sense of identity for individuals and communities. So, first to introduce the question, identity and culture has the capacity to define a person to a certain extent, but not to the full extent, as there are other factors that contribute to the identification process. Identity is who you are, the way you think about yourself, and the way you are viewed by the world, as well as the characteristics that define you. These can include your name, your culture, your sense of identity, and for characters in the text, especially the one we're going to discuss today, this means how they're seen and how the wider world views or judges them. Culture plays a huge role in defining a person, especially in today's society. This is seen through the media, individual experiences, as well as texts. An example is this media outlet defining this boy as an angelic. This is how they define him and identify him. However, they identify the same person that's done half the act as a Muslim thug. So they're using different words to identify them. Different texts have all different types of purposes. They're used to convey a message which impacts their audience, morals, values, and the sense of identity that an individual community has before reading a text meant to be challenged or confirmed afterwards. A text that successfully fits this criteria is Shafana and Art Serena by Alana Valentine. This text, which is a play, many aspects of the character's identity and culture are presented. The common ideal is the Islamic culture and its issues within the Middle East, as well as predominantly Australia, where it's set. So now we're going to deconstruct Shafana and Art Serena. So it's a play written by Alana Valentine that discusses the Islamic faith and how it's portrayed in modern Australia as well as around the world. It resonates with many audience members because of its impact. Its purpose is to represent a community that is quite often shunned in the media due to many events. Its purpose is to offer a better insight into how Muslims, particularly women, explore their own identities in relation to their faith and how it impacts their life in modern Australia. Valentine's character Shafana, after the attacks, develops a deeper connection with her Islamic faith. Through her university studies, she explores her faith, and although not encouraged by her aunt to wear the hijab, she decides to wear it. So one idea that is presented through Shafana and Art Serena is the outwards display of faith. The appearance of a person in Australia is, it provides a catalyst for judgment. It provides someone to identify them and their culture. So through the text, the outwards appearance of faith is a central theme that is discussed through monologues and duologues. The idea centers around the discussion between Shafana and her aunt, where they discuss where she wants to wear the hijab. The hijab is a recurring motif throughout the play and is also symbolism of their Islamic faith. Through the play, Shafana discusses that it serves as a symbol of developing and deepening her faith. So on page 47, she says, I want to make a real change that has happened to me, that God really is there and I believe that. So this is a quote from the text that shows her developing and deepening her faith. The hijab is the fourth one that covers the hair and the neck, just for contextual reference. Aunt Serena's view, so she has a very strong opinion, although she's not completely against it. She doesn't see it as something that is necessary or something that makes Shafana a better Muslim. She discusses how many women in scarves end up buying cars because they get harassed on public transport on page 66, and this shows how Shafana's identity will change and she'll have to explain for herself every day. So this affirms ideas that we have within our society about identity, because in society many people are judgmental and quick to assume someone's identity by their outer appearance of faith. This can be presented through the hijab, other religious outerwear, car decorations, necklaces, rosary beads, and tattoos as the examples I have at the bottom of the page. So this confirms ideas that we have about our society because people are constantly involuntarily identified due to their religious choices of outerwear. My second point is the assimilation into Australian culture. So travelling to a new country can be a struggle for anyone. The transition in language, government, society, and specifically culture is huge and can take a while to complete. So in the play, both characters have come to Australia from a war-torn country and assimilate into Australian culture. It is through multiple monologues throughout the play and through other contextual references such as their food and their language that Aunt Serena discusses her travels and how it's so different to their own home countries. So on page 52, she has a monologue about travelling to Kabul. So this shapes identity because moving to Australia and assimilating into the culture is a huge part of someone's identity. Identity revolves around an individual's nationality and culture, and when this changes, their identity changes as well. So this is done through mainly the characterisation of Aunt Serena. She is the one who discusses her travels to Australia and how different it is to Afghanistan through her flashbacks. She discusses how the decision to start wearing the hijab would change the culture and identity of Shafana. One of her flashbacks is flashback to a university as well as her travelling through Kabul. So assimilating into Australian culture affirms ideas we have in our wider society because this is a common challenge that many Australians face as Australia is a multicultural country. So, as this seen by this article, You Won't Be Settled in Australia, it obviously shows that this is a common theme as it is in a national newspaper. My third idea is the importance of education. This is thoroughly represented throughout the text. So Shafana, coming from a war-torn country, values her education more than anything. She works hard on her assessments and puts her education first. Her aunt helps with her work and always supports her educational decisions. The opening monologue starts with Shafana's biology presentation and continues throughout the play. Throughout this biology presentation, she discusses many metaphors, such as the creatures that she has and how they open up, similar to her identity. So how is represented in the text? They are represented through many parts as well as the opening monologue, as discussed before. The opening focuses directly on her education and her knowledge and how dedicated she is to her project. So these challenge ideas that we have in our wider society because unfortunately it's not mirrored. As seen in modern Australia and throughout the media, less kids are seeing their education as important. So most students would much rather go out overnight rather than finishing their assessment on time and more thoroughly and successfully. So this, and also through the idea of a nerd, it's seen as a negative identity in society that values their education. However, in Shafana and Aunt Serena, valuing education is normal and an important part of adolescence. Now we're going to skip to the conclusion. So, in conclusion, texts do have a huge impact on shaping a sense of identity for individuals and communities. The play Shafana and Aunt Serena by Alana Valentine discusses ideas that challenge and affirm the way we see our wider society, and therefore shapes the identity of an individual and or their community. This is done through the outwards appearance of faith, assimilation into Australian culture, and importance of education, all similar ideas that are discussed within Shafana and Aunt Serena and that are mirrored in our society.